Lisa Harper stared at the radar screen in complete shock. The massive ships appeared out of nowhere, dropping out of hyperspace like monsters from a nightmare. She had been commander of the New Horizon Orbital Defense Station for 3 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The alien vessels were enormous, each one the size of a small city, and there were dozens of them surrounding Earth. "Commander Harper, we're getting readings from all major cities," her communications officer called out. "These ships are everywhere. London, New York, Tokyo, Moscow, every major population center has at least 2 of them hovering overhead." Lisa grabbed her headset and opened a channel to Earth Command. "This is New Horizon Station to Earth Command. We have a situation up here. Multiple unknown vessels have appeared in Earth orbit. Request immediate instructions." The response came back filled with static and panic. "New Horizon. This is General Patricia Stone at Earth Command. We see them too. They're not responding to any of our communications. All military units are on high alert." Down on Earth, Captain Maya Rodriguez was already running toward her fighter jet when the first alien ships appeared. The alarm sirens were screaming across the airbase, and pilots were scrambling to their aircraft. Maya had been flying for the Earth Defense Force for 8 years, and her reflexes kicked in automatically. "All pilots, this is Control Tower," came the voice over her helmet radio. "We have hostile contacts over every major city. Launch immediately and await further orders." Maya's fighter roared to life, and within minutes she was airborne with 20 other pilots. But as they climbed toward the massive alien ships, something impossible happened. The alien vessels began firing strange blue energy beams, and wherever these beams touched, Earth's military equipment simply stopped working. "My engines are dead," came a panicked voice over the radio. "I'm going down." "Mine too," shouted another pilot. "These things are killing our power systems somehow." Maya watched in horror as her fellow pilots' aircraft fell from the sky like broken toys. Her own engines sputtered and died, and she barely managed to eject before her fighter crashed into an empty field. At the same time, Dr. Amanda Brooks was in her laboratory at the International Space Research Center when the first reports came in. She was a xenobiologist, someone who studied the possibility of alien life, but she had never expected to encounter it like this. Her computers were showing readings that made no sense. "The electromagnetic signatures from these ships are off the charts," she said to her assistant. "Whatever technology they're using, it's completely beyond anything we understand." The alien ships moved with purpose and precision. Within the first 5 minutes, they had disabled every satellite in orbit around Earth. Communications between countries went dead. Military bases found their weapons systems mysteriously offline. Even nuclear missiles refused to launch. Their electronic systems somehow scrambled by the alien technology. In the mountains of Colorado, in a place most humans had never seen, Lyrelay Moonwhisper felt the disturbance in the magical energies that surrounded Earth. She was an elf, one of many who had lived in hidden realms alongside humans for thousands of years. Her people had always remained secret, watching and protecting the balance of nature, while humans built their cities and machines. "The harmony is broken," she whispered to herself, looking up at the sky where strange lights were moving between the clouds. "Something alien has come, something that does not belong to this world." The Elven Council would need to know about this immediately, but Lyrelay wondered if her people should reveal themselves to help the humans. For so long, they had remained hidden. But this threat seemed different from anything they had encountered before. Above Earth, Admiral Zelthera stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching her forces take control of the planet below. She was tall and graceful, with silver skin and large, dark eyes that missed nothing. Her people, the Zephyrians, had traveled across the galaxy seeking a new home, and Earth appeared to be exactly what they needed. "Report," she commanded in her cold, precise voice. "All major population centers are under our control, Admiral," her tactical officer reported. "Their primitive weapons cannot penetrate our shields, and our electromagnetic pulse weapons have disabled their military systems completely." "Excellent. Begin Phase 2. Establish occupation zones around their largest cities and start cataloging their resources. We will need to know everything about this planet if we are to make it our new stronghold." The invasion was swift and merciless. Within 10 minutes, every major government on Earth had either surrendered or been destroyed. Military resistance crumbled as advanced alien technology made human weapons useless. By the 15-minute mark, Zephyrian ground forces were landing in the centers of major cities, establishing control points and rounding up human leaders. Lisa Harper and her crew on the orbital station watched helplessly as Earth fell beneath them. Their own weapons had been disabled by the same electromagnetic pulses that had crippled everything else. They were trapped in space, unable to help, and unable to escape. "Commander," her communications officer said quietly, "I'm picking up scattered radio transmissions from the surface. It sounds like some military units are trying to organize resistance, but they're being hunted down systematically." Maya Rodriguez had managed to reach one of these resistance groups after her fighter crashed. Hidden in an abandoned warehouse with a dozen other soldiers, she listened to reports coming in from around the world. The story was the same everywhere. Complete defeat in less than 20 minutes. "How is this possible?" asked Lieutenant Karen, White, a young officer who had never seen combat before. "We had the most advanced military in human history, and they just swept us aside like we were nothing." "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours," Maya replied grimly. "Our weapons can't even scratch their shields, and they can disable our equipment from orbit. We're going to have to find another way to fight back." Dr. Amanda Brooks had managed to record some data before her laboratory was destroyed by alien forces. Hidden in the ruins of her building, she studied the readings on her handheld device. The energy patterns the aliens used were unlike anything in human science, but there were strange fluctuations in the data that she could not explain. 20 minutes after the first alien ship appeared, the invasion was over. Earth belonged to the Zephyrian Empire, and humanity had become a conquered species. Cities burned, governments had fallen, and millions of people were dead or captured. But in the hidden places of the world, in mountain caves and deep forests, small groups of humans began to gather. They had no idea how to fight back against such advanced enemies, and they did not know that they were not alone on Earth. The elves remained hidden, but Lyrelay Moonwhisper was already making plans to change that. The invasion had ended in 20 minutes, but the real war was about to begin. 3 months had passed since the invasion, and Captain Kate Sullivan crouched behind the ruins of what used to be a shopping mall. The Zephyrian patrols came through this area every few hours, searching for human resistance fighters like herself. She had managed to keep her small group of survivors alive by constantly moving and avoiding the alien detection systems. "Any word from the other groups?" she whispered to Rebecca Foster, the engineer who had become her second in command. Rebecca was good with electronics and had managed to build communication devices that the aliens could not easily detect. "Chicago group is still active, but we lost contact with the Boston team 3 days ago," Rebecca replied quietly. "The aliens are getting better at tracking our signals." Kate nodded grimly. The human resistance was losing ground every day. Their weapons were useless against Zephyrian armor, and every time they tried to organize a larger attack, the aliens would detect them and strike first. She was beginning to think that humanity might not survive this occupation. That was when they heard footsteps approaching through the rubble. Kate raised her rifle, even though she knew it would do little good against Zephyrian soldiers. But the figure that appeared was not an alien. It was a young woman with pointed ears and long silver hair, wearing clothes that seemed to be made from moonlight and shadow. "Do not be afraid," the woman said in a voice like music. "I am Lyrelay Moonwhisper, and I have come to offer you help in your fight against the invaders." Kate stared at her in shock. "What are you? Are you human?" "I am an elf," Lyrelay replied, simply. "My people have lived on Earth longer than yours, but we have remained hidden until now. The invasion has forced us to reconsider our isolation." Rebecca lowered her weapon slowly. "Elves are real? I thought they were just stories." "We are very real, and we have been watching your species grow and change for thousands of years. We have our own magic and technology, different from yours, but perhaps useful in this war." Kate felt a spark of hope for the first time in months. "Can you really help us fight the aliens?" "Their technology is advanced, but it has weaknesses," Lyrelay explained. "My people have studied the energy patterns of their weapons and shields. We believe our magic can disrupt their systems in ways they do not expect. Meanwhile, Dr. Amanda Brooks was hiding in the basement of a destroyed university, still analyzing the data she had collected during the invasion. She had noticed something strange about the alien technology. There were moments when their shields flickered, brief gaps in their defenses that appeared to follow some kind of pattern. If I could, just figure out what causes these fluctuations, she muttered to herself, staring at the numbers on her screen. There has to be something we can use. Above ground, she could hear the sound of Zephyrian vehicles moving through the streets. They were searching for survivors, rounding up humans to work in their resource extraction facilities. Amanda knew she could not hide forever, but she also knew that her research might be the key to fighting back. In another part of the city, Captain Maya Rodriguez was planning a rescue mission. Her small team of former pilots had been tracking a group of captured humans who were being held in a Zephyrian facility. The building was heavily guarded, but Maya had noticed that the guards followed predictable patrol patterns. "We go in fast and hard," she told her team. "Hit them before they can raise the alarm, get our people out, and disappear before reinforcements arrive." It was a desperate plan, but desperation was all they had left. As they moved through the abandoned streets toward their target, Maya spotted something that made her stop in her tracks. A figure was moving on the rooftops above them, graceful and silent as a shadow. The figure had pointed ears and carried a bow that seemed to glow with its own light. "Did you see that?" whispered Lieutenant Nicole Gray, one of Maya's pilots. "I saw it," Maya replied, "but I don't know what it was." The figure on the rooftop was Aliana Dawnblade, an elven warrior who had been sent to observe the human resistance. She had been watching Maya's team for several days, impressed by their courage and determination despite being hopelessly outmatched. When she saw them heading toward the Zephyrian facility, she made a decision that would change everything. Ileana dropped silently from the rooftop and appeared in front of Maya's team. The humans raised their weapons, but she held up her hands, in a gesture of peace. "I am here to help," she said. "My name is Aliana Dawnblade, and I am a warrior of the elven people. We have been watching your fight against the invaders." Maya stared at her in amazement. "Elves? You're really elves?" "We are, and we want to join your resistance. Our magic can do things your technology cannot. Let me help you rescue your people." At the same time, Lyrelay was meeting with Kate Sullivan's group in the ruins of the mall. She had brought with her Sylviana Starweaver, an elven artificer who specialized in combining magic with technology. "Show me your weapons," Sylviana said to Rebecca Foster. "I want to understand how your technology works." Rebecca pulled out one of their modified rifles. "We've tried everything to make these more effective against the aliens, but their armor is too strong." Sylviana examined the weapon carefully, running her fingers along the metal and whispering words in the ancient elven language. Suddenly, the rifle began to glow with a soft blue light. "Now try it," Sylviana said with a smile. Rebecca aimed the rifle at a piece of Zephyrian armor they had salvaged from a destroyed patrol vehicle. When she pulled the trigger, the enhanced bullet punched right through the armor like it was paper. "How did you do that?" Rebecca asked in amazement. "Magic and science are not so different," Sylviana explained. "Both follow natural laws, just different ones. When you combine them properly, they become much more powerful than either one alone." Kate felt hope growing in her chest. "Can you teach us how to do this? Can you help us make weapons that can actually hurt the aliens?" "That is why we are here," Lyrelay said. "But first, we need to bring our peoples together. The Elven Council must meet with your leaders to discuss an alliance." "What leaders?" Kate laughed bitterly. "The aliens killed or captured most of our governments in the first day of the invasion. Then we will help you build new leadership," Lyrelay replied. "Gather the strongest and wisest of your resistance fighters. We will teach them what we know, and together we can begin to fight back." Over the next few weeks, secret meetings began to take place across the world. Elven emissaries made contact with human resistance groups, sharing their knowledge of magic and ancient technology. Dr. Amanda Brooks was brought to one of these meetings, where she met with elven scholars who helped her understand the energy patterns she had been studying. "The aliens use quantum field manipulators for their shields," explained an elven scientist named Thalian Brightmind. But magical energy operates on a different frequency entirely. If we can synchronize the frequencies correctly, we can disrupt their defenses. Amanda's eyes lit up with understanding. That's why their shields flicker sometimes. Natural magical fields on Earth are interfering with their technology randomly. If we could do it deliberately— Exactly, Thalion nodded. Your scientific knowledge combined with our magical understanding could create weapons they cannot defend against. Meanwhile, Maya Rodriguez was working with Ileana Dawnblade to plan better rescue missions. The elf's ability to move unseen and her enhanced senses made their operations much more successful. Your people fight with great courage, Ileana told Maya after they had successfully rescued 50 captured humans from a Zephyrian work camp. We fight because we have no choice, Maya replied. This is our world. We're not going to let them take it without a fight. That spirit is why my people have decided to help you, Ileana said. We have seen many species over the millennia, but humans have something special. You never give up, even when victory seems impossible. As the alliance between humans and elves grew stronger, they began to notice something else. The Zephyrians were not just conquerors, they were refugees. Intercepted communications suggested that they were running from something, looking for a safe place to make their stand against some greater threat. What could be so dangerous that it would force them to flee across the galaxy? Kate wondered, during one of their planning meetings. I do not know, Lyrelai admitted, but perhaps it is something we should learn more about. If there is a threat great enough to drive the Zephyrians to desperation, it might eventually come for Earth as well. The Human-Elf Alliance was growing stronger every day, but they all sensed that their fight against the Zephyrians was only the beginning of a much larger war. The breakthrough came 6 months after the first contact between humans and elves. Dr. Amanda Brooks and Lyrelai Moonwhisper had been working together in a hidden laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, trying to crack the Zephyrian communication codes. Their combined knowledge of human technology and elven magic had finally paid off. I think we have something, Amanda said, staring at the decoded message on her screen. But this doesn't make sense. According to this transmission, the Zephyrians are not the real enemy. Lyrelai studied the ancient elven texts spread across the table beside the computer. The message mentions something called the Void Devourers. I have seen this name before, in our oldest records. What are Void Devourers? Amanda asked. According to our histories, they are ancient beings that consume entire star systems, Lyrelai explained, her voice filled with dread. My ancestors encountered them once, many thousands of years ago. They barely escaped with their lives. The intercepted message was from Admiral Zelthara to her fleet commanders, and it painted a terrifying picture. The Zephyrian Empire had been fleeing across the galaxy for decades, staying one step ahead of an unstoppable enemy that destroyed everything in its path. They had invaded Earth not just for conquest, but because they desperately needed a defensible position to make their final stand. Listen to this part, Amanda said, reading from the translation. Long-range scouts report Void Devourer advance fleet detected in Proxima System. Estimated arrival in this sector, 18 months. Earth fortification must be completed before their arrival, or all is lost. Captain Kate Sullivan received this information during an emergency meeting of the Resistance leadership. The news changed. Everything they thought they knew about their situation. So the aliens who conquered us are actually running from something worse? Asked Rebecca Foster. It appears so, Lyrelai confirmed. The Zephyrians see Earth as their last hope for survival. They believe this planet's position in space makes it a natural fortress against the Void Devourers. Kate felt a chill run down her spine. What happens if these Void Devourers reach Earth? According to our ancient texts, they consume all life on every world they encounter. Lyrelai said quietly. They turn entire planets into lifeless husks. Meanwhile, Captain Lisa Harper was still trapped aboard the New Horizon orbital station, but she had not been idle. Using the station's long-range sensors, she had been monitoring activity in the outer solar system. What she saw made her blood run cold. There's something out there, she told her crew. Beyond Neptune's orbit, the sensors are picking up massive energy signatures, unlike anything we've seen before. Her communications officer, Lieutenant Jenny Adams, enhanced the sensor readings. Commander, I think you need to see this. Whatever it is, it's huge, and it's heading toward the inner solar system. Lisa made a decision that would risk everything. Using the station's stealth systems, she ordered a reconnaissance probe to be launched toward the mysterious contacts. The probe would take weeks to reach its target, but they had to know what was coming. On Earth, the Human-Elf alliance was growing stronger, but they were also discovering disturbing intelligence about their situation. Captain Maya Rodriguez and her elven partner Eliana Dawnblade had been conducting surveillance missions around Zephyrian facilities, and they had noticed something strange. "They're not just occupying our cities," Maya reported during a resistance meeting. "They're building massive defensive structures, weapons platforms, shield generators, communication arrays. It's like they're preparing for a siege." Eliana nodded grimly. "My scouts have observed similar construction in remote areas. They are turning Earth into a fortress world. Dr. Amanda Brooks had been analyzing captured Zephyrian technology with the help of elven artificers. What she discovered was both amazing and terrifying. Their weapons are incredibly advanced," she explained to the assembled leaders. "But they're also desperate. Some of this equipment shows signs of hasty construction, like they built it while running for their lives." Sylviana Starweaver, the elven artificer, had been studying Zephyrian shield generators. "Their defensive technology is designed to protect against specific types of energy weapons. The Void Devourers must use similar technology across their entire fleet." The real shock came when the reconnaissance probe launched by Lisa Harper reached its target. The data it transmitted back to Earth was beyond anything they had imagined. The objects moving through the outer solar system were not ships in any traditional sense. They were living creatures the size of small moons, creatures that fed on the energy of stars and planets. "This changes everything," Kate Sullivan said, when she received the probe data. "We're not just fighting for our freedom anymore. We're fighting for the survival of all life on Earth." The Resistance leadership faced an impossible choice. They could continue fighting the Zephyrians and weaken Earth's defenses against the approaching Void Devourers, or they could try to make peace with their conquerors and work together against the greater threat. How do we even approach the Zephyrians? "About this?" Rebecca Foster wondered. "They've been hunting us for months." "There may be a way," Lyrelay said thoughtfully. "Our intelligence suggests that not all Zephyrians support Admiral Zelthara's harsh occupation policies. Some of their officers have questioned whether they should be working with humans instead of oppressing them." That evening, Jenny Adams and Thessarian Nightbreeze, an elven scout, were conducting a reconnaissance mission near a Zephyrian command post when they witnessed something unexpected. A group of Zephyrian officers were having a heated argument outside their headquarters. "We cannot continue this brutal occupation," one of them was saying. "The humans are this planet's natives. If we are to defend this world together, we need them as allies, not slaves." "Sub-Commander Veltara speaks wisdom," another agreed. "Admiral Zelthara's methods are creating more resistance, not less. We are making enemies when we should be making friends." Jenny and Thessarian exchanged glances. This Sub-Commander Veltara seemed to be leading a faction within the Zephyrian military that opposed the current occupation policies. "We need to find a way to contact her," Jenny whispered. The opportunity came sooner than expected. A few days later, Sub-Commander Veltara was leading a patrol through the ruins of downtown Denver when her unit was attacked by Void Devourer scouts that had somehow reached Earth ahead of the main fleet. The creatures were smaller than the massive beings detected in the outer system, but they were still deadly predators that could tear through Zephyrian armor with ease. Maya Rodriguez and Eliana Dawnblade were in the area when the attack began. They watched from a hidden position as the Zephyrian patrol fought desperately against the alien creatures. "We should help them," Eliana said. "They're our enemies," Maya replied. But even as she said it, she knew it was not that simple anymore. "Are they?" Eliana asked. "Or are we all victims of the same threat?" Maya made a decision that would change the course of the war. She and Eliana joined the fight, using their hybrid human-elf weapons to drive off the Void Devourer scouts. When the battle was over, Sub-Commander Veltara stood face to face with her supposed enemies. "You saved our lives," Veltara said, her voice filled with surprise. "Why?" "Because we just learned that we have a common enemy," Maya replied. "And if we're going to survive what's coming, we're going to need to work together." Veltara looked at the weapons Maya and Eliana carried, weapons that had been able to harm the Void Devourer scouts when Zephyrian technology had failed. "Perhaps it is time for us to talk," she said. The first secret meeting between human, elf, and Zephyrian representatives took place in an abandoned subway tunnel beneath the ruins of Denver. Kate Sullivan, Lyra Lee Moonwhisper, and Subcommander Veltara sat across from each other, three species who had been enemies now forced to consider an alliance. "The Void Devourers will reach Earth in less than a year," Veltara explained. "Our projections show that Earth's current defenses, even with all our modifications, will not be enough to stop them. But your technology combined with our magic might be," Lyra Lie suggested. "We have already created hybrid weapons that can harm them." Kate looked at both of them. "What you're suggesting is that we stop fighting each other and start fighting together." "Yes," Veltara said simply. "Because if we do not, we will all die together." Above them, the first Void Devourer scouts were already beginning to multiply in Earth's outer atmosphere, and time was running out for all three species. The secret negotiations between humans, elves, and Zephyrians took place in an abandoned mining facility deep in the Colorado mountains. Captain Kate Sullivan sat across a metal table from Sub-Commander Veltara, while Lyra Lie Moonwhisper served as a translator and mediator between the two very different species. "My people do not trust easily," Kate said bluntly. "You invaded our world, killed our people, and enslaved the survivors. Now you want us to fight alongside you." Veltara's silver skin showed patches of darker color, which Kate had learned was a sign of shame among Zephyrians. "You are right to hate us. What we did to your species was wrong, but we were desperate. The Void Devourers destroyed our homeworld and 15 colony systems. Earth was our last chance for survival." "That doesn't excuse genocide," Kate replied coldly. "No, it does not," Veltara agreed. "But if we do not work together now, the Void Devourers will finish what we started. They will kill every living thing on this planet." Lyra Lie placed her hands on the table between them. "I have spent weeks studying the ancient elven records about these creatures. They do not negotiate, they do not take prisoners, and they do not leave survivors. If they reach Earth with their full fleet, nothing will remain alive here." The first breakthrough in the negotiations came when Dr. Amanda Brooks arrived with data from the reconnaissance probe. The images she showed them were horrifying beyond imagination. The Void Devourers were not just large creatures, they were living weapons systems with the ability to drain the life force from entire worlds. "Look at this," Amanda said, pointing to readings from the probe. "They consume not just organic matter, but energy itself. Electromagnetic fields, thermal radiation, even nuclear energy. They turn planets into cold, dead rocks." Veltara studied the data with growing alarm. "Our projections were wrong. They are much larger and more powerful than our intelligence indicated. Admiral Zelthara must see this information immediately." "Will she listen?" Kate asked. "She will have to," Veltara replied, "because these readings prove that Earth cannot be defended by Zephyrian technology alone." The meeting between Admiral Zelthara and the Human-Elf Alliance leaders took place 1 week later in the ruins of the United Nations building in New York. The Admiral was an imposing figure, tall and elegant, but with eyes that showed the weariness of someone who had been fighting a losing war for too long. "Sub-Commander Veltara tells me that you have weapons capable of harming the Void Devourers," Admiral Zelthara said, her voice cold and formal. "We do," Captain Maya Rodriguez replied. She had been chosen to demonstrate the hybrid technology that had been developed by combining human engineering, elven magic, and captured Zephyrian components. Maya raised a rifle that glowed with soft blue energy and fired at a piece of Void Devourer armor that had been recovered from one of the scout creatures. The shot punched through the armor like it was paper. Admiral Zelthara's eyes widened. "Impossible. Our most powerful weapons cannot penetrate their bioarmor." "Magic and technology working together," Lyra Lie explained. "Something your people have never tried." "Because we do not have magic," the Admiral replied. "But we do," Eliana Dawnblade said, stepping forward, "and we are willing to teach you, if you are willing to learn." The negotiations were difficult and tense. Admiral Zelthara was a proud military leader who had never considered working with what she saw as primitive species. The humans were angry and bitter about the invasion and occupation. The elves were cautious about revealing their ancient secrets to outsiders, but the threat of the Void Devourers made cooperation necessary. Captain Lisa Harper, who had finally been brought down from the orbital station, presented the latest intelligence from deep space monitoring. "The main Void Devourer fleet will reach Earth in 8 months, she reported. "Based on our observations, there are at least 50 of the large creatures, plus thousands of smaller scout units." Rebecca Foster, the human engineer, had been working with Sylviana Starweaver to design new hybrid weapon systems. "We think we can modify Zephyrian ship designs to carry magical enhancement systems," she explained. "But we'll need complete access to your technology. And we will need your people to learn magical techniques," Sylviana added. "Magic requires practice and understanding, not just equipment." Admiral Zelthara was quiet for a long moment. "What you are proposing is unprecedented. Zephyrians have never used magic. We are not even certain we are capable of learning it." "Everyone is capable of learning magic," Lirali said gently. "It is part of the natural forces that exist throughout the universe. Your people simply never had teachers." The first test came when a group of Zephyrian technicians worked with elven artificers to modify a damaged fighter spacecraft. Lieutenant Nicole Gray, a human pilot who had been learning elven enhancement techniques, was chosen to test the hybrid vessel. "The magical systems are responding," she reported over the radio as she flew the modified ship through a series of combat tests. "Power output is increased by 300%, and the shields are holding against simulated Void Devourer weapons." Admiral Zelthara watched the test results with growing amazement. "If we can do this with our entire fleet." "We can," Velterra said. "But it will require complete cooperation between our species. No more occupation, no more resistance. We work together as equals, or we die separately as enemies." The formal alliance was signed 2 weeks later. Admiral Zelthara agreed to end the occupation of Earth and release all human prisoners. In return, humans and elves would share their magical knowledge and help modify Zephyrian military equipment for the coming battle. But not everyone was happy with the agreement. Some humans still wanted revenge for the invasion, and some Zephyrians considered the alliance a sign of weakness. There were several attempts to sabotage the cooperation, including an attack on a joint research facility by human extremists. "This is exactly what the Void Devourers want," Maya Rodriguez said during an emergency meeting after the attack. "They want us fighting each other instead of preparing to fight them." Captain Kate Sullivan had become the unofficial leader of the human resistance, and she worked hard to convince her people that the alliance was necessary. "I know it's hard to work with the people who conquered us," she told a gathering of resistance fighters. "But if we don't, there won't be anyone left to remember that Earth ever existed." Jenny Adams had become the liaison between human pilots and Zephyrian flight crews, teaching them to work together in mixed squadrons. "Their ships are faster than ours ever were," she explained to a group of former Earth Defense Force pilots. "But our tactical thinking is more flexible than theirs. When we combine both approaches, we become much more effective." Dr. Amanda Brooks was leading the scientific cooperation effort, working with both Elven scholars and Zephyrian researchers to understand Void Devourer technology. "They use a form of biomechanical engineering that grows rather than being built," she discovered. "But that also means they have biological weaknesses we can exploit." The real test of the alliance came when Void Devourer scouts began appearing in larger numbers throughout the solar system. Joint human-elf Zephyrian patrols engaged them in a series of running battles, learning valuable lessons about how to fight the alien creatures. "They adapt quickly to our weapons," reported Eliana Dawnblade after a particularly difficult engagement near Mars. "We cannot use the same tactics twice. Then we will have to become more adaptable than they are," Admiral Zelthara replied. As the months passed, the three species began to work together more smoothly. Zephyrian engineers learned to incorporate magical enhancement systems into their designs. Human pilots flew modified alien spacecraft with Elven weapons officers. Elven warriors fought alongside Zephyrian soldiers using hybrid armor and equipment. Romance even began to bloom between some members of the different species. Nicole Gray and a Zephyrian tactical officer named Zar Lin discovered they had much in common despite their different origins. Maya Rodriguez and Aliana Dawnblade had grown closer during their many missions together. "It's strange," Maya said to Aliana as they watched Earth's sunset from a hilltop outside the Joint Command Center. 6 months ago, we were all enemies. Now we're preparing to fight together for the survival of everything we care about. "Perhaps that is what it takes," Aliana replied. "A threat so great that it forces former enemies to become friends." But time was running out. Long-range sensors detected the main Void Devourer fleet approaching the edge of the solar system. The creatures had learned from their scout units and were adapting their tactics. The final battle for Earth was about to begin. "All forces report ready for deployment," Admiral Zelthera announced during the last strategy meeting before the enemy arrived. "Human, elf, and Zephyrian ships will fight as one fleet under joint command." "For Earth," Kate Sullivan said. "For all our peoples," Lyrelei Moonwhisper added. "For the future," Admiral Zelthera concluded. The alliance had been forged in desperation, but it had become something stronger than any of them had expected. Now they would discover if it was strong enough to save them all. "All ships with magical enhancement systems," she transmitted, her voice already weak from the effort. "I am going to give you more power than you have ever had. Use it wisely." The effect was incredible. Every hybrid weapon in the fleet suddenly blazed with 10 times its normal power. The magical energy flowing through the ships was so intense that some of them began to glow like stars. Maya Rodriguez felt her fighter transform around her as Lyrelei's magic flowed through its systems. "Aliana, are you reading these power levels?" "Beyond anything I have ever seen," Aliana replied in amazement. "We could punch through a planet with this much energy." The final assault was swift and decisive. The enhanced fleet tore through the remaining Void Devourers like a sword through paper. The enemy leader, despite its massive size and ancient power, could not withstand the combined might of 3 species united in purpose. When the battle was over, space around Earth was filled with the debris of the Void Devourer fleet. The ancient threat that had driven the Zephyrians across the galaxy was finally defeated. But the victory came at a terrible cost. Lyrelei Moonwhisper had given her life to power the final assault, and hundreds of brave beings from all 3 species had died in the battle. "She saved us all," Kate Sullivan said quietly, as they held a memorial service for the fallen, human, elf, and Zephyrian alike. "Her sacrifice will not be forgotten," Admiral Zelthara promised. "We will build a monument to her and all who died, defending Earth." In the months that followed, the 3 species worked together to rebuild what had been destroyed. The alliance that had been forged in desperation became the foundation for a new kind of civilization. Earth became the capital of an interspecies confederation that stretched across the galaxy. Dr. Amanda Brooks established the first Tri-Species Research Institute, where humans, elves, and Zephyrians worked together to explore the mysteries of magic and technology. Captain Maya Rodriguez and Aliana Dawnblade founded the Confederate Fleet Academy, training the next generation of pilots from all 3 species. Kate Sullivan became the first human president of the Earth Confederation, working closely with Elven Council representatives and Admiral Zelthara to govern their new alliance. 5 years after the invasion that had ended in 20 minutes, Earth had become something none of them could have imagined. It was no longer just a human world, but the heart of a galactic civilization that proved different species could not only coexist, but thrive together. "The Void Devourers thought they were destroying us," Kate said during the 5th anniversary celebration. "Instead, they helped us become something stronger than any of us could have been alone." Lisa Harper, now Admiral of the Confederate Deep Space Fleet, smiled as she looked up at the stars. "And if anything like them ever threatens the galaxy again, they'll find that Earth and her allies are ready." The invasion had ended in 20 minutes, but it had led to something beautiful. Earth had struck back not with vengeance, but with unity, proving that even the darkest threats could be overcome when different peoples chose to stand together. The Void Devourers emerged from hyperspace like nightmares made real. Commander Lisa Harper watched from the bridge of the Joint Command ship as 50 massive creatures, each one the size of a small moon, appeared at the edge of the solar system. Behind them came thousands of smaller creatures, filling space with their dark, writhing forms. "All ships, this is Admiral Zelthara," came the voice over the communication system. "Joint Fleet Command to all units. Execute Battle Plan Alpha. Human and Elven forces, engage the scout units, Zephyrian capital ships, target the large creatures, for Earth, for all our worlds." Captain Maya Rodriguez sat in the pilot seat of a modified Zephyrian fighter, with Aliana Dawnblade as her weapons officer. Their ship was one of hundreds that had been enhanced with the hybrid technology developed over the past 8 months. The magical systems hummed with power as they flew toward the enemy. "First contact in 30 seconds, Aliana reported, her hands moving over the Elven enhancement controls. "Magical weapons are charged and ready." Maya felt her heart pounding as the enemy scout creatures came into view. They were unlike anything in nature, twisted combinations of flesh and metal that moved through space like swimming predators. "Here we go," she whispered, and opened fire. The hybrid weapons worked better than anyone had dared to hope. Beams of energy enhanced by elven magic tore through Void Devourer bio-armor like it was nothing. Creatures that had shrugged off conventional Zephyrian weapons exploded under the combined assault of technology and magic. "Direct hit!" Aliana shouted with excitement. "Their armor cannot resist the magical enhancement." But the Void Devourers adapted quickly. The remaining scout creatures began moving in new patterns, using some kind of hive mind communication to share information about the new weapons. They started focusing their attacks on the hybrid ships, recognizing them as the greatest threat. "They're learning too fast," Captain Kate Sullivan reported from her command ship. She was coordinating the human resistance fighters who had been integrated into the joint fleet. "We need to change tactics before they figure out how to counter our weapons." Dr. Amanda Brooks was monitoring the battle from the research station, hidden deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. She had discovered something important about the Void Devourers that could change everything. "All units, this is Dr. Brooks," she transmitted. "I've found a weakness in their hive mind communication system. If we can disrupt the connection between the large creatures and their scouts, they'll lose coordination." "How do we do that, Admiral?" Zelthara asked. "Lyrelei Moonwhisper and I have developed a magical disruption field," Amanda explained, "but it requires a direct assault on the command creatures. Someone has to get close enough to deploy it." The plan was incredibly dangerous. A small strike force would have to penetrate the enemy defenses and plant the disruption device directly on one of the massive Void Devourer command creatures. It was essentially a suicide mission. "I'll lead the strike team," Captain Kate Sullivan volunteered immediately. "As will I," said Sub-Commander Velterra. The Zephyrian officer had become one of Kate's closest allies during the alliance negotiations. "And I," added Thessarian Nightbreeze, the elven scout who had proven himself in dozens of dangerous missions. Lisa Harper coordinated the battle from orbit while the strike team prepared for their mission. The main fleet was holding its own against the Void Devourers, but barely. The magical enhancement systems were taking a tremendous toll on both equipment and personnel. Elven mages were exhausting themselves maintaining the power flow, and human and Zephyrian crews were pushing their ships beyond safe limits. "Strike team, you are clear for approach," Lisa reported. "But be fast. Our main fleet cannot hold these positions much longer." Kate's strike team flew a modified transport ship that had been enhanced with the most powerful stealth systems the three species could create together. Zephyrian cloaking technology, elven concealment magic, and human electronic countermeasures combined to make them nearly invisible to enemy sensors. Approaching the target creature, Veltara reported as they neared one of the massive Void Devourers. Up close, the thing was even more horrifying. It was like a living mountain of flesh and metal, covered in weapon pods and sensory organs that tracked their approach. "Setting down on the surface," Kate said, landing their ship in a valley between two massive spines that jutted from the creature's hide. "Remember, we have exactly 10 minutes to plant the device and get out before it activates." The surface of the Void Devourer was a nightmare landscape of writhing flesh and mechanical components. The strike team, wearing specially modified environmental suits, made their way toward the creature's primary neural center. Thessarian used his elven senses to guide them through the maze of biological corridors. "The neural center is just ahead," he whispered. "But there are defense organisms moving to intercept us." The defense organisms were like mechanical spiders, the size of cars, with multiple arms ending in cutting tools and energy weapons. The strike team fought their way through waves of them, using their hybrid weapons to clear a path. "Device planted," Kate reported as Veltara activated the magical disruption field generator. 30 seconds to activation. But as they tried to retreat, more defense organisms swarmed their position. Kate realized they were not going to make it back to their ship in time. "Go," she told the others. "I'll hold them off." "We do not leave anyone behind," Veltara said firmly, standing beside Kate with her weapon ready. "Agreed," added Thessarian, taking position on Kate's other side. The three of them fought desperately against overwhelming odds, while the disruption device counted down to activation. 20 seconds. 15. 10. At 5 seconds, Jenny Adams arrived in a rescue fighter, blasting through the swarm of defense organisms. "Get in," she shouted. "Now!" They barely made it to safety before the disruption device activated. The effect was immediate and devastating. All across the battlefield, the smaller Void Devourer creatures suddenly lost coordination. They began flying in random directions, no longer able to receive commands from their hive mind controllers. "It's working," Maya Rodriguez reported from her fighter. "The enemy scouts are completely disorganized." Admiral Zelthara seized the opportunity immediately. "All ships, full assault. Target the large creatures while their defenses are down." The combined fleet struck with everything they had. Magical weapons charged by elven power, Zephyrian energy cannons, and human missile systems all focused on the massive Void Devourer command creatures. One by one, the ancient predators fell under the coordinated assault. But the largest creature, the apparent leader of the Void Devourer fleet, began to adapt even to the disruption field. It started regaining control over its smaller units and launched a counterattack that nearly broke the Allied fleet. "We're losing ships too fast," Lisa Harper reported. "The enemy leader is too strong." That was when Lyrelai Moonwhisper made the ultimate sacrifice. From her position on the research station, she began channeling all of her magical energy into one massive spell, a working that would amplify every magical weapon in the fleet beyond anything they had achieved before.